Hello everybody, this is Yasmin from Yarkspiri fantasyart.com, and today I'm actually going to go through the clone source tool as well as the healing brush as well. So both of these are very similar tools, and for this reason I'm going to cover them both together in today's tutorial. So I'm just going to switch to stamp tool. Now the stamp clone source tool is actually very useful. It has a couple of different aspects that you can change. So if you go in the panel here, what this allows me to do is change the sample area. So I can actually pre-save these sample areas and create a new sample area every time I sample an area. So first and foremost, how do I sample an area? So all I have to do to sample this area is just hold down the Alt key and left mouse click, and it will automatically sample that area. Now there's a couple of changes that I can do here at this point. I can change this because right now it's set to clip area, so it's only clipping within the area of my brush. I can change that though, so instead of being clipped I can actually show the entire sample area. So as you can see, it allows me to overlay it and realign it in whichever way I want. So if I turn that back on, it clips it back so I'm not getting distracted by that entire area. Now to show the other features though, I do need to have this unchecked. So if I click here, as you can see, I can rotate where my sample area is located. I can also change interactively the width and height together, or if I uncheck this, I can just change the width and stretch it out, or just change the height by squishing it down. If I want to reset this, I just click this little button here and it will automatically reset the information. So maybe I want to mirror the colors because I don't want to do all the colors at the same time. I can easily do that just by clicking this button, and it'll give me a completely new color palette from which to work with. So I just click this back to clipped so that it's easier for me to view. Now because I already have my sample area selected and I can easily start painting at this point in that area. As you can see, it's actually replacing all the image that's there with my new information. Now the only problem with this is that if I go too high, as you can see, it's starting to sample my character above the area. So if that's not what I wanted to do, I can easily change the settings simply by creating a new source, resampling this area, and then it's going to allow me to sample below the character instead. But let's say I wanted to go back to my original saved information for the clone brush. I can easily do that just by clicking this button here, and it automatically brings me back to the settings I originally had and tells me to offset numbers, the orientation, all that. So that all that information's been saved, and I can save up to 5 in these guys here. Really useful. It gives you a lot of options for editing. For this though, I'm gonna undo this so that I can show you some more options. One more thing I didn't mention is that I actually created a separate layer above this background layer. So essentially what that allows me to do, if I undo this again, is it allows me to turn this off and it changes. So these changes are not permanent because I did it on a separate layer. So that's really useful for editing purposes, if you especially want to come back to this later on. Now you do have a couple of options that you can play around with for this, because right now it's set to the clone stamp tool, which is the default setting. But you can change the flow of this brush, because you are using a brush that you would normally do when you're painting. So you can change both the flow, the opacity of the brush, the blending mode of the brush, which is really cool because you can get some pretty nice effects. You can also change the brush type that you're using to create these changes. So if I go to soft brush, it gives me a more softened look because it's using the soft brush. Now there's two tools. That's the first stamp tool. So I'm just going to turn off my changes here. and create a new layer. I can change this to the pattern stamp tool instead. And what this essentially allows me to do is add a pattern to my image. So right now there's already a pattern that's set by default. If I click down here, you'll notice that I have two basic patterns that are in my inventory. And those are the only two that I currently have, but I can reset patterns, I can load patterns, I could save patterns, I could replace the patterns, and I can do a variety of changes within this area. So I'm not restricted to just these two patterns. I can add my own custom patterns to this area. And once again, you can change the flow, the opacity as well, the blending mode for this brush, as well as the type of brush. Now this one works independently from the previous brush, so if I want to use the same brush as my previous clone stamp tool, then I'm going to have to change the brush manually. So those changes are not automatically added onto the sub-tools within that one tool. Now here's just a quick sample of what it does. As you can see, it's just adding a very simple pattern that's a default. So it's not really anything fancy, but it can be useful depending on what you're doing. Personally, I save brushes that create their own individual patterns. That's a lot easier for me to manipulate. I also get a much more organic look. So for this reason, I don't use this tool at all. But there may be instances when you find that you do need to use this tool. So if you go to Spot Healing Brush tool, this is a really interesting tool, but in order to use this, I have to be working with the same layer I'm going to modify. So I have to click on my bottom layer, since that's my background layer. And in order to use this brush will automatically sample the surrounding area. So right now I'm going to set it, because I can set the type of changes that will be applied to this brush. So right now I'm going to do a proximity match. So if I paint above this, give it a computer a little bit, you'll see that it attempts to simulate the texture that's surrounding that area. Now the only problem with that, and if I zoom in and remove my grid lines here, you'll notice it. You'll notice that the text actually gets blurred because I sampled within that area. That's something you have to be aware of, because if you're not careful, that will show up in the final drawing, and it is something you want to avoid. So it's a little bit different than the stamp tool, because the stamp tool does not do that unless you're completely overlapping an area. So I'm going to change this to the Create Texture option. If I click and drag on here, as you can see, it's just applied a texture to it. You can also change this to Content Aware. So if I click on here, it will take a variety of spots into consideration as it's blending that area. So in this case, you can see it's problematic because I have the writing so close to each other. So that's causing a conflict within this tool. So it is something you need to be aware of. Now, I can also turn on and off whether I want this to sample all the layers or just the one layer. That's something I can easily change. I can also change, once again, the blending mode and the brush type. So I'm just going to undo those changes. And I'm going to change this to the healing brush. Okay, so this healing brush is pretty interesting. In order to set the sample area for this brush, the healing brush, it's the same as the stamp tool. So if I hold down Alt, you'll notice that it samples within that area. This is different than the stamp tool, because what the stamp tool does is it mimics fairly closely to 100% exactly what it sees. What the healing brush does is it takes into consideration the surrounding area. So it's going to blend in that surrounding area. And as you can see, it's blended it, but it's also blurred the areas that I've just changed. So depending on what type of changes you're doing, that could be both beneficial and problematic. In this case, because I have a heavily textured background, it's blending that area too much, so I'm seeing the difference in color because it's essentially softened my really bright colors and softened my really dark colors. So for this reason, if I ever were to remove the flatten image word, I would not be using the healing brush. I would definitely be using the stamp brush, because the stamp brush would give me more accurate results than this brush has. Now you can also change what you want to sample. So if you go above here, I can sample the current layer and below the layers. If I have multiple layers, I can choose how many layers essentially are being sampled, or I can sample all the layers or just the current layer. Right now, because I'm selected this current layer, it's only sampling the current layer. I can also set the source to both sample and pattern. And once again, I could change my mode, blending mode, as well as my brush type. Okay, so let's cover the patch tool. The patch tool is actually really interesting. I'm going to have to zoom out a bit though, in order for you to actually be able to see how this is properly applied. I'm just going to move my screen a bit here, so you can see it a bit more. So how this tool works is, first you need to click and drag with your left mouse around the area you want to sample. You need to also decide how the change is going to be applied. So right now I'm going to set it to source. So when I left click and drag this area, it's actually going to copy this area within this area here. Important factor though, it is still slightly blending my area, so just watch out for that, because it does try to blend it in with the surrounding area. So in this case, it's causing a little bit of discoloration. So something to watch out for. So if I undo that, I can change this to destination. And what that's going to do is, when I click and drag this is going to copy it in there and blend it within that area. As you can see, it's actually fairly accurate. There is some discoloration that's been caused here, but it's not too bad. Now you're probably not going to use this transparency. It's not all that useful. You also do have the choice of using a pattern. Once again, you're probably never going to use that option, so I don't recommend using that. So I hope you guys found this tutorial very informative, and I hope to see you guys soon. So thank you and take care.